Hello, Lisa Dickey here from Dickey's Cooking School, and today I'm going to show you how to make pastry. What we're using today to make it is unsalted butter, frozen, lard, frozen, cider vinegar, all-purpose flour, ice water, sea salt, sour cream. And the tools we need are a whisk, a grater, a measuring spoon, and some measuring cups. You will have enough pastry to do a double layer deep dish pie. By that I mean you've got the bottom, obviously, and the top. You could do a single layer 9-inch pie. You could do 2 full jumbo muffin tins with tarts, or you could do 2 regular muffin tins. Okay, so obviously if you want less, then you're gonna take these ingredients and cut them in half. Okay, so the ingredients we need are 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour, half a cup of unsalted butter, frozen, half a cup of lard, frozen, 2 tablespoons of cider vinegar. You just fill up a big thing of with ice water, and you're gonna use it as needed only. Half a teaspoon of salt and 8 teaspoons of sour cream. Let's start. Okay, we're back. Let's make our pastry. So in this bowl here, we've got the flour and the salt already measured out. You're gonna give it a quick whisk. And just a quick reminder, when you're measuring flour, don't take your measuring cup and scoop the flour out. You need to use 1 scoop to fold it in or to toss it in and then level it off with your hand. Otherwise, you're gonna cram too much flour in. Okay, so the flour is mixed. Then here I have the sour cream and the vinegar, and I'm just gonna mix it up. Just give it a little quick whisk. Now, I just have a note about the sour cream. So just so you know, pastry is quite flexible. There are lots of different ways to make pastry. You can do all butter, all lard, all shortening, a combination. There's actually hot water crust, which is a totally different scenario. You can also, if you're ever interested, you could skip the sour cream. You could grate a little bit of Parmesan cheese into a pastry recipe for a meat pie or something else. A really nice thing to also grate in is lemon rind right into the flour mixture. So if you did that, you're gonna want to obviously wash your lemon first. And then just a rasp is a really excellent way to grind that in. It gives a really nice flavor, is excellent for a pie that's super, super sweet, like a pecan pie or a caramelly pie. The lemon is a really nice addition. Anyway, so for today we're doing half butter and half lard. Here's the technique. So the reason why I use frozen butter and lard is that the best way to make pastry is to keep all of your ingredients really, really cold. Heat is actually an enemy of pastry. You want your fat to be hard and create air pockets so you get that nice flaky crust. And that's about it. So this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take my lard, I'm gonna give it a little toss in the flour just because it's gonna make it easier. It's gonna make it a little bit less greasy. I'm gonna toss a little bit of flour into my bowl, and then I'm gonna use a grater and grate some lard in. Toss some more flour and continue on like that. Okay, here is all of our grated fat, our lard and our butter. If you come across little pieces like this that don't quite make it through the grater, just break them up with your fingers. Okay, so now that this is all mixed in, I'm going to add the sour cream. So keep in mind, you don't ever overwork pastry dough. The more you work it, the more you melt the butter, and the stiffer and tougher your dough is gonna get. So I've got the sour cream and the vinegar in. Just so you know, vinegar is an essential ingredient to pastry. It inhibits the production of gluten, and so it gives you a flakier crust. And I like cider vinegar for the flavor, but you can use white. Okay, I just want to add one other thing. Vinegar is an essential ingredient to making pastry. Its key role is to inhibit the production of gluten, and that gives you a flakier dough. There's a really great baker, and she's got a book called Brave Tart, and she did a study on a bunch of different types of pastry, and the through line, the common ingredient that was the most effective is vinegar to be added into it. Okay, so now everything is mixed in, and so now the question is how much water? So I'm going to tell you right now, do not add water by the teaspoon, you add it by the splash, okay? Because you can't backtrack over watering it. You're going to get dense, heavy, soggy dough. So I'm going to put my hands in the ice water, which also helps keep my hands cold because they do kind of run hot. I'm going to splash a little bit of water in, and I'm going to scoop the dough, and I'm looking for it to I want it to just form. I want it to just be malleable enough that it can hold itself in a ball. So obviously not yet. I'm going to add a bit more water. A little bit more. If you can see here, it's almost there, okay? I'm gonna add a little bit more. And I think I'm gonna get this onto the counter now. Get that water out of the way. I'm gonna sprinkle a little flour, and now I'm gonna give it a bit of a knead. If you're vegetarian and you don't want to use lard, understandably, you could substitute it with shortening. I don't know why, but for some reason I have no success with. I've made straight shortening pastry, and it's mediocre at best. I would prefer to do only butter if I couldn't add an additive, but that's just me. Lots of people make great pie pastry with shortening. I don't. So here is your nice, beautiful piece of dough. So that's holding its shape. I'm gonna grab up these extra bits. I think they're gonna go in. It's not overworked. The dough is actually still really nice and cold. So what we're gonna do with this is we're gonna wrap it in plastic wrap, and it's gonna rest for 30 minutes. You can kind of save yourself a little bit of rolling out time. Instead of wrapping it up in plastic wrap in a big firm ball, what you can do is flatten it out into a disc or into 2 discs if you want. Wrap it in film and then let it sit in the fridge for 30 minutes to rest. And then you can start making your tarts or your pie or your meat pie or your butter tarts. Okay, our pastry has rested for 30 minutes. Now we're gonna roll it out. I'm gonna roll it out today, and I'm gonna make tarts with it. I'm gonna make some butter tarts and some apple tarts. If you wanna make a full pie shell, I'm gonna give you a little bit different advice when it comes to rolling it out. Simply because you have to roll it out really thin, and you need to be able to lift that up into, to get it into a pie pan. When you're cutting pastry out for tarts, your pastry cutter is going to basically lift it up, and it's not really hard to get it out. Okay, so number one, as you can see, I have floured the surface of my table. This is important because you don't want your dough to stick. So I've floured the bottom, and I'm also now going to flour the top. Okay, and I'm going to flour my rolling pin. If you don't have a rolling pin, use a wine bottle, or you could use a heavy can, like a big juice can. Just cover it with parchment or some plastic film. Okay, so when you're rolling it, you want to keep your hands fairly balanced, and you want to keep your pressure also balanced, okay? So I'm going to give it a little bit of a roll this way, and especially in the beginning, then you're going to give it a 90-degree turn, and you're going to roll it again. And the idea is that when you're rolling it out, you want to keep it even, okay? So now I'm going to roll it again, and I'm just going to keep doing this until I get it to be about a 1/4 inch thick, which is like like that. You don't want it too thick, or maybe you do want it too thick. Personally, I don't like it super thick because I like the ratio if it's a tart or a pie, I like a lot of filling and a bit of pastry. If you like lots of pastry, then do it that way. So we're just gonna get this rolled out. Okay, so with our pastry recipe, we filled 24 standard muffin tins. Just so you know, you need a 4-inch cutter for this. If you do not have a 4-inch cutter, look for a can lid that's 4-inch or a plastic cup or a plastic container that's 4-inch. You can improvise. My only caution against using a 4-inch glass is that because it's pretty aggressive twisting to get it off, you wouldn't ever want, obviously, a piece of glass to chip and get into your pastry, because sad times when you perforate your larynx. Just one other thing is that you need to really spray this when you're making tarts like this. Especially, I've got butter tart and apple tart here. There's syrup that can bubble up and slip down, and it's terrible to try to dig it out. So number one, don't overfill your shells, and number two, make sure you spray them. If you don't like using cooking spray, a cooking oil, really heavily coated with butter or something. Okay, we're gonna fill these up. Preheated oven, 350, and you're gonna have tarts in 20 to 25 minutes. If your oven is unpredictable, please turn your tarts every 8 minutes or so, just to make sure that they cook evenly. All ovens have a hot spot, and mine oven is no different. I hope you enjoyed this pastry lesson. I hope you make apple tarts or butter tarts or some other magnificent tart. Thanks a lot. Thanks for watching. I'll see you later.